Hey everyone, Lisa here with another great episode of Real Money. Today I'm with Nicole Rueth. We are going to break it down about what it really means to buy a house today, right now in this 2023 hurricane of a market. It's crazy out there. We want to share with you as you're thinking about buying your first home or your first investment property, what you need to know to make the most out of the moves that you're making with your money and all the crazy things that go with it. Welcome to the show, Nicole.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Lisa.
Yeah, I'm so grateful that you're here. We met through some common people that we work with together, and they said, you got to talk to Nicole. And then when we connected, I just knew it was going to be a really powerful show. And I'm excited for my guests to get to know you. And so we're just going to dive in. You ready?
I am ready. Let's do it.
Okay. All right. So can you introduce yourself to the audience?
Absolutely. So my name is Nicole Rueth. I have been in mortgage lending for a little over 22 years. But probably the coolest part of the story, which I think we'll go into today, is the fact that I grew up like a lot of us. I mean, I grew up with a single mom. We were on food stamps. We were moving all the time. And today I've been able to achieve a position of owning 24 doors and 2 commercial buildings. And I've let that pour into my business. So I am the top mortgage originator in the state of Colorado, but I do a lot of conversations, a lot of classes and education around helping people build wealth through real estate. And then I had the incredible opportunity of helping all 3 of my kids buy their first home at age 21.
Amazing. Amazing. Thank you for the work that you're doing. Can we hang out in your childhood for a minute?
Yeah, we can. We can. People often ask if I'm asking for any more children, and that's no. But
no.
Can I be a kid?
No. Yeah, no, that sounds amazing. When we talked before the show, you had mentioned that 11 million, in America today, there are 11 million single parent households, and that the majority of those households are women.
Correct. 80%
right?
of them. Yes.
Having that experience firsthand, what was that like? And did you ever think about wealth as a kid? What was your experience with money growing up?
Survival was the word. Wealth wasn't a word. Money was a word that we used, whether we had it or we didn't. And my mom did an incredible job as a single woman. She had moved us from New York to Dallas, in hopes of prosperity, right? I mean, her goal, she was in sales, and things were booming in Dallas at the time in the oil industry. So she moved us from New York to Dallas, hoping to take advantage of that. But as a single mom with 2 kids that you've got to also make sure that they're okay, the redirection towards career, I think, took a very jagged path, which didn't create stability. It created high highs and low lows, but not a train of a single stability that we could count on.
What was the jaggedness? What was that?
Commission. So when you're in sales, it's a commission income. It's not a W-2 salaried position. So had she chosen the path of a salaried position, it might have turned out differently. I don't know. Mm-hmm. But she chose the path of commission. She's fantastic. She's a fantastic saleswoman. But that also came with moments where we had plenty of money and we could spoil ourselves, and moments where we were lacking and looking to other resources for money, like the church or food stamps.
Was that confusing for you?
I think it was unstable. I don't think it was confusing because I don't think I had a barometer to measure it against. I think it was a general, consistent fight or flight.
Mm-hmm. When did you, at what point did that change for you?
So there was a sense of fight or flight throughout college, trying to overcome the balance of going to school, which I thought was important. It had been impressed upon me by my mom that it was important, and I appreciate that. But it was also, how do I get out of the debt? How do I keep myself afloat? How do I put myself in the position of success? So I think it was fight or flight through that and then into my first career. How do I find success? What does that even look like? How do I even depend on myself? What is my strength defined by? I think that there were so many things that sense of monetary growing up, or that sense of stability or lack thereof, created a lack of strength in my own personal capabilities, right? And I think that happened throughout my first career. I did not find true stability until I happened to find my husband. We got married and had our first kid and our first home all within 18 months. And that was right about the time I was 30 years old. And it wasn't, I think, until I got settled there that all of a sudden I got settled there. And it was, all of a sudden things, I don't want to say they started to make sense, because I think I'm making too much of that, but I stopped being afraid.
That's really important to acknowledge. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
That you were afraid and then you stopped being afraid. And now being the top broker in Colorado, did I say that right? You're the top
Yes.
broker in Colorado.
Yeah.
And now having everything that you have, was it uncomfortable being around money? Was there a learning curve for you? And I'm asking this specifically because there are a lot of women who are in their 20s and 30s that are listening and watching who want to know. And for me, it was a huge learning curve and a huge jump. And I felt like I was an imposter. I struggled around people with money. I still do, honestly, because that's not how I was raised. What was that experience like for you? Going from unstable to stable and then building wealth?
So imposter syndrome, right? I mean, that's obviously, well, it's not obvious. It is a conversation that I have a lot between my husband, between my coach. As a strong woman, you feel like you have these surges of opportunity or energy, and you want to commit to that level of success. And I've had success, there's no doubt. But it's always, did I earn this? Is this right? And then owning that money piece of it. I mean, I talk a lot in the classes I teach about the opportunities that real estate provides, but a lot of it too, as you can imagine, there's a lot of women, females, kind of in the groups that I kind of create that wealth through. And a lot of it is owning what that is to you. What is a retirement that you can count on look like? What is that amount of money look like? What is the investment of that money? All too often, and I've been guilty of saying this myself, is I'm making this money, but I don't really know how it's invested because my husband takes care of that. Right? Why is that the standard? So I definitely think that at first it was a denial. It was more about creating the path for the women and the families and the homeowners that I was serving, and the money would take care of itself. I almost pushed it to the side. And for a long time, we way underspent what we were making because it was a fear that it would go away just as quickly as it came. We're not going to spend it. We way underlived our means. The house that we lived in, the vacations that we took, the cars that we drove. And we put that money in savings because it could go at any time.
Yeah. Yeah. And so you said you've been in the industry for, was it 20 years?
Yeah, a little over 22.
20 years.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, I can only imagine the volatility and changes you've experienced in the industry over the last 20 years. Having that security, having that savings, did that make a difference for you? And did that make a difference for you? And then how have you guys navigated these highs and lows? And I know you popped on, you're like, man, it's crazy out there right now. What are some things that you've been able to have in place to be able to withstand the volatility of the markets?
This market might be the worst market I've ever seen. It's intense. And I think it's worse than 2008 in a different sort of way. But what we've seen, so 22 years having been in this industry, much like any other industry, you don't come in making a lot of money. I became the top originator in the state of Colorado probably about 5 or 6 years ago. So for the first 15, for the first 10, I was in operations. I was making $40,000, $60,000 a year. And then I moved over into originating, and then I started doing more than just a couple loans a month. So it was a gradual increase over that period of time, much like you would experience in any professional trajectory where you reach those higher levels, both income earners and position. But I would say that over especially the last 6 years, maybe going back as far as 8, as the income has increased, as the opportunities, as the origination volume has increased, we turn to real estate. Honestly, if you look at my other investments, we do have somewhat of a balance. My financial planner would disagree with me when I say that. He would say I'm completely out of balance.
Yeah.
But we did start, and we purchased our first property 14 years ago. So we started to see the vision in that, and we're able to buy additional properties and then help my children. And then I even bought my mom a home during COVID. And being able to put our money into that because of the longevity and the stability. I joke with my kids. I said, no matter what happens, you have a house to live in, right? So I do believe in that. I'm still afraid. I mean, I wish you grew out of that at some point. Like, I wish you made enough money or you felt stable enough. But even in this market today, with the 24 doors, with the 2 commercial buildings, I can tell you that the stability and the security lets me sleep at night. It gives me peace. But there's not a day that goes by, especially in a turbulent market like this, that you're second guessing where the next paycheck is coming from, or if you're going to be able to prosper in the way that you did.
Yeah, it's all scary. And there's a lot of doom and gloom out there. I aspire to not be one of those financial experts that's giving gloom and doom all the time because we don't know what we don't know. And if we can survive 2008, if we can survive COVID, we can survive anything together. And at some point we need to position to thriving. And I think that for a lot of women, we don't break out of that conversation of just surviving. And I'd love for you to break it down to the extent that you're comfortable for my audience. What does 24 doors look and 2 commercial buildings look like and feel like? And it's typical that if you have like people who build their wealth in real estate will have their major holdings in real estate. And then there's that imbalance. So I just want to echo that to anybody who's listening going, well, what does that mean? It's typical, people who invest in real estate have more real estate than they have other kinds of assets. So you're not alone, right, Nicole?
Right.
That's very typical. But what does that actually look like and feel like on a regular basis? The buzzword that comes to mind is passive income, and it sounds really sexy, but I'm guessing had to build that 1 door at a time to get to 24 plus 2 commercial buildings. Can you break that down for someone who really might want to even buy their first home, but they don't even know where to get started?
I love that question, right? Because everybody thinks that they've got to leap from here to there. And they because they can't see what it takes to leap, they don't take the first step. And the first step is so not a leap. The first step is really just believing in the power of real estate, I think, is the first step. And then you start diving in to see where can it take you. Oftentimes, the first step is your primary home. If you're apt to move, if you're young enough, if your life is fluid enough, or if you just know you need to in order to achieve that kind of success more quickly, you can move every single year as a primary home. So the first step could be as little as 3% down on a primary home. Buying something that long-term would make a good investment. So many people want to buy the primary home that they have in their dreams, right? And I get that. My husband and I, we just bought or built our forever home. So, we're finally in a position where we've been able to do that, and it took several years to build it, and we won't be moving, hopefully ever. But
congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But it took a long time to get there. Our first homes, none of them would be considered something that I would live in forever. So it was, what is a home that's either in a good area that's appreciating, cash flows well, maybe it's by a hospital or by a university, you can rent it out by the door, or maybe it's just a good solid piece of property, of land. I often say that they're not building land anymore. And oftentimes people want to get into a condo situation because it's less expensive. And a condo is a fantastic first step, but it's just that when you don't own land, it's hard to have that continued appreciation opportunity. So for somebody that's interested in doing something today, I would say talk to somebody who you trust, who you know, like, and trust, who is going to have your back and tell you what your first step could be based on your current financial situation. Can you afford a current home, or do you need to look at different areas or different types of homes? Do you need to save a little bit? And what does that budget or financial discipline look like? So deciding how to get into the first one, and then almost immediately figuring out, how do I capitalize on the most revenue from this first one so that I can then move into the second one?
Is getting loans as scary as it sounds? Asking for a friend? Because I just think, the conversation that a lot of Americans are in for some good reason, and then other, I think, fear-based about debt. And to get to 24 homes, I'm guessing you didn't have cash available to, or maybe you did, but at some point you're leveraging your way up. That sounds scary for someone who might be risk adverse. Can you break that down?
So yes. And there are a lot of investors. There's investors that believe everything under the sun. And there are investors that want to buy as much as they can and have the most amount of leverage because they're trying to gobble up units. And that's valid. And then there's other investors who want to only buy something if they could buy it 100% cash. And there's two opposite sides of that spectrum. And then I'm somewhere in the middle. Like, if I can put 25% down on a property, I feel really safe and good. Now, that's because I'm older. I didn't buy my first investment property until I was 40 years old. And my husband and I had started to identify some of the things that we want to achieve, not only in our 40s, but in our 50s and our 60s and our 70s. I'm helping my kids do this now with their first one at age 21. They put 5% down. And then my boys just bought their second one and they put 5% down again. That wouldn't scare me at all because they're 23 and 25. They have the world in front of them. Even if they had to hurry up and sell it, they could, right? So it definitely depends on where you are in your life, how much money you have in reserves to hold you over. My whole goal is for each property, we put 25% down. We save a lot given my job or commissions, right? Versus a salaried position. Yep. So we have the chunks of commission. So we'll put the chunks of commission in, we'll save as fast as we can. And then we put another 25% down. And then it might be a year, a couple years. And then we try and do it again. So by putting the 25% down on a 30-year amortization, I'm trying to get it to where the rents break even or better. Now, I had the benefit of buying a number of them, the majority of them pre-COVID, which is tougher today than it was then.
Sure.
And I've got just as many investors in my pipeline today who understand the opportunities in front of us, but that's not quite what we're talking about right this second. But when I did it on a 30-year amortization, I also had a goal to have them paid off by the time I turned 62. So as I was buying them, I would pay them as an amortization of whatever number of years that was, whether it was 20 years or 18 years or 16 years. And then that would just be a self-inflicted amortization or pay schedule that would get me to my goal. And then if something happened, if we had a vacancy or if we had to do a major remodel, we could back up our payment into the 30-year fixed, which was lower, and use the excess cash. Yep. So that always made me feel like we had some cash reserves and then we were meeting our goals.
Yeah, that's super savvy. And what I love about what you're saying is you're treating it like a business.
Yes.
And that's the first thing that when my clients come to me who don't own real estate, when they talk about investing in real estate or buying a second property, maybe they have their primary home, it's that you've got to treat it like a business. It's not a cash cow.
I wish mailbox money was as easy as it sounds.
It's never that easy.
Oh, no.
How do you manage that? Okay, I'm going to get real nosy. Ready? Answer, we can cut out. Oh, well, I'm not going to cut it out. We're just going for it.
Go for it. Let's go.
24 doors.
Yes.
Who manages all of that? Do you have property management companies? Do you have your own property management company? So I know growing up, my dad had one property. We had our home, and then 3 or 4 miles up the road, he had his rental property. And all I heard was him complain about it. The tenant, just what a pain in the ass it was, always breaking down, always having to fix things. With 24 doors, the phone's got to be ringing with stuff. Who's managing all of that for you?
So it's almost better to not have just one, because it kind of becomes the focal of your right? The focal point of your attention. So the first 5 doors we managed. And we kind of set up our systems. We knew what it would take to replace the water heater, what it would take to replace the windows or have a turnover for a new tenant. We did have a gal that would help us meet the tenants at the location. She would run the background check and then help us just with finding the new tenant and getting them in the door. But we would manage everything else, just boots on the ground. I had a very full day job. After the first first 5, then we did hire a property manager.
So you had 5 properties, you were managing that. Was that it's got to be like having a business. I'm sure you weren't getting calls all the time, but on weekends, at night, you were working full time, raising kids. You were shuffling a lot to be able to help and take care of those properties. Yeah.
It was a little bit of a business. Once you got the lease, though, and you simply manage their expectations, I think a lot of it had to do with being human with those first tenants. So I know that there are some investors who want to put up like the shield. They don't want the tenants to know who they are. They, for better or for worse, they had my cell phone. They had my address. They would mail us their rent checks in the beginning. And I don't know how much of that was because we weren't savvy investors yet, or we were figuring it out, or we just didn't really have anything to hide. But that was our first 5 doors. After that, we started to get a little bit more regimented in setting up each rental property with its own LLC and having more of a distance between us and the property. And now with the property manager, they don't come through us at all. They go through the property manager. But I think if you don't treat it like it's your sole job, then you can't treat it like it's your sole job. You have a full-time job. So we just had to set the expectations of the tenants on when we could respond, how quickly we could respond, and what they could expect from us.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Growing up in a single parent household, going back to your upbringing, were there points, I heard you say imposter syndrome, but you go to buy another home, That's a lot of risk and then risk and then risk to get to 24 homes. Were there those gut wrenching moments? I know for me, every time I make a big investment in my business, I literally want to feel like I'm going to puke. It's a lot of stretching all the time to get even in my from my business to go from one piece of revenue to another revenue stream. All of those things are they can be excruciating at times. For you, how did you navigate the fear and the excitement stretching outside of, you didn't grow up around money. How did that work for you? How did you manage that, navigate that?
That's such a great question because I 100% agree. The second guessing is incessant. It's like, I shouldn't have spent that money. We shouldn't have done the thing. Is it going to benefit us? That one isn't appreciating as well as the others. Was it the wrong investment to make? All day, constantly. And I don't want to say that in a negative way, all day, constantly, but I think as women too, if I were to generalize, I think men have an easier ability to make a decision to move on. Mm-hmm. Right or wrong, that mistake is in their past. Mm-hmm. I tend to relive the mistakes and rethink them and turn even good decisions into mistakes. Like, I think that was a mistake. But I think ultimately too, when you grow up and fight or flight is your natural state,
Yep.
then you sort of become used to it. Like this heightened stress level isn't seen necessarily as a detriment as much as it is just a course of doing business, right? So if I want to achieve, I think I've come to realize that if I want to achieve, forget about greatness, if I want to achieve stability, if I want to achieve financial freedom and the ability to have a retirement that I can count on, a retirement that my mom and my kids can count on, if I want to create any kind of legacy where I've now turned my attention towards my clients, that they can now create this path for themselves. If I want to do something that has meaning, it comes with being able to overcome the challenges I put in front of myself, and then the fact that I second guess myself, and the fact that I'm scared about a thing. I did the thing. I did it. Like I bought the thing. I'm not going to unbuy it. I'm not going to sell it because I'm afraid. I'm going to try to educate myself on the ways to manage it or to have it be successful or to take that equity to multiply it because I'm already there. Like I own the thing that is now supposed to be part of this plan towards stability and security.
Yeah.
Can't go backwards, but you embrace the fear.
I think so. I think that's really important, is that it's real estate investing. It's a very sexy conversation right now going on, especially for millennials. And what I'm hearing more than anything is that you had a plan and you had a vision before you executed. And so is it that vision that keeps you in the game, even when you're scared, even when you buy a property and you second guess it?
The vision is huge. So one of the things that I believe in is that when you cast a vision so strong that it becomes clear, it literally creates itself, right? It's the when you want to buy a white car, all you see are white cars on the road. It starts to put things in your path, actions, people, opportunities, so that it pulls you towards it. It wants its success. I mean, you've created that vision. You've given it life. It wants to live. And so now you just almost have to get out of the way and allow it to breathe and start to believe that those people and opportunities and skills will come into place when you need them most.
Mm-hmm. I think someone needed to hear that today.
Yeah. It's hard. Creating the vision is massive, and having a really strong why is even more important. I mean, I look at my 3 kids every day. So there was a gentleman, I'll make this story short because I could make it long, but I won't.
Okay.
But there's a gentleman, and his name is Don Kramer, and he is still in the Denver market. He's still a real estate agent here. I had gone to an investment club, if you will, as a lender. I was trying to pick up realtors because that's what lenders do. He was a real estate agent who had an off-market deal, and he went to this investment club to pick up an investor. I had no desire. Remember, single mom, lack of stability, fight or flight. I didn't want an investment. It meant more responsibility. It meant thinking outside the box. It meant things that I was afraid of and I didn't know, and I didn't want to invest. I literally had the roof over my head. I was good, but I needed realtors because I was a lender. I needed a business. So I went, and over the course of the next 30 days after that one singular meeting, he got his investor. He took me along this journey that I wasn't seeing, I didn't expect, and I didn't even want. And I didn't get a realtor because we only did that one deal together. So he won and I lost. But I would say that that I won in multitudes today. So I would say that even if you aren't 100% clear on your vision yet, be open to where you believe it's taking you and allow the people to come around you that you believe are taking you towards that vision. It can cement itself as it goes. The more clarity you have, the more strength it's going to pull you towards it. Yeah. But just to even start having it, it's going to start creating opportunities. You just have to believe it first. And then all of a sudden, Don Kramer's will come alongside you.
Even when you're not looking for them, they arrive.
Yeah, I was not.
So the few times in the last few years that I felt stuck, or I felt like I didn't exactly know where my business was going to go, it felt like a quieter time in my business. Like, business wasn't coming in and I was feeling frustrated and I wasn't sure what direction I was going to take. Every time when I just got quiet, something happened. And it happened by way of someone reaching out to me with the opportunity, not me trying to search for the opportunity. And I think that's a great illustration of just opening your hands and letting the universe deliver to you versus you feeling like you have to just pound the pavement all day long. It doesn't happen all the time in my business. I still wake up every single day in committed action, in the vision. But I think what you're saying is be open.
100%. 100%. And I love that you committed action. That's a fantastic phrase, despite the fear, right? Because we all wake up, we have some sort of reservation or some limitation that we self-impose, but it's the committed action. It's that having the vision, the clarity, the why, maybe the why even more than the vision when the vision isn't as clear, that gets you up out of bed, ready to charge forward.
Yeah. And I love what you said, that the fear never goes away. Seeing you on stage, seeing you out in the world, you're so successful. I think that on social media, it's really easy for someone to look at your success and think that you don't have a problem in the world. And that's not true. That's not true. We just don't let the fear eat us alive. We don't let the fear win.
That's right.
We take action anyway. Okay. I'm going to switch gears for a minute. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. There is a less attractive side in the real estate world of real estate investing that I've had clients come to me who have been lured in or attracted into real estate worlds where it sounds too easy or too good to be true. And then $40,000, $50,000 later, there's no return on investment. Can you speak to, so specifically talking to a woman who's thinking about investing, who's looking for mentorship, who wants tools and resources, how do you navigate all that's out there when it comes to real estate investing to know that you're in the right place with the right people? What are things for them to be looking at to know when it's not the right fit?
That's such a great question. I can't even tell you how many times I've had clients come to me that had they had the $50,000 that they spent on that program, we could have gotten them into a home. Or they cashed out refinance on their home in order to do that thing. And now they were, whether it was they're upside down or they're in a position where their mortgage payment is higher than they can afford. And now they have to sell that home that was supposed to catapult them into the next thing. It's not as uncommon as we would like to hope. I would say that there are sharks in every industry. Real estate is not the only one. It is, there are bad people in every position. What you have to do is determine what is your soul. As a woman, we have such a deep innate sense to judge the character of the people we're around. Yet we don't listen to it. We choose to go after a thing that is going to make us money, or it's going to put us on top, or it's what somebody else has, so I want it too. If we go back to that period of being quiet and still, as you were talking about earlier, and think about that thing, I don't make a single decision without sleeping on it first. Small or big. People will say, well, but this is, you've only got 5 minutes. You've only got an hour. It's only good through today. And my answer is always, well, then I'm going to have to pass. Yeah. Because if it's so good, it will be available tomorrow. So going back and finding that place of rest and quiet where you can think or you can tune into your intuition as a woman is so critical, especially in markets right now, where you might have the news media talking about how the market is still, the economy is still strong, it's resilient, yet boots on the ground is not feeling that strong or resilient. It's feeling fear and scared. And if everybody else is feeling abundance, or the economy is resilient, or people are gaining wealth, then all of a sudden I'm like, I don't want to miss out on the boat. I need to go challenge, and I need to go in that direction. I need to go quickly, or else I'm going to be left behind. Mm-hmm. Slow down. Right. So as you're trying to find who are your people in helping you attain those goals, first I would ask, what do they have in it? Right. So a lot of the things that, and I don't want this to be about me, it's not about me, but a lot of the things that my team does, people will ask, well, what do you charge for that? And I'm like, ultimately, I get paid if you do a mortgage with me. But if you don't do a mortgage with me, luckily I'm blessed enough that I don't need your commission to make my life whole. Mm-hmm. So if I can give you the gift of my experience, my husband and I, one of the things that we say a lot is that we aim to give away more than we receive every single day. We tithe, and we believe, I truly, deeply believe that if I don't give it all away, then he will stop giving it to me, right? Then my Lord will stop serving what, we've been trying to achieve. Yeah. So our whole thing is about giving that back, supporting other women to have that level of stability and security. That's what I would tell your listeners, is to find that person in their life who isn't trying to achieve their success by selling you a thing, but simply wants to see you succeed. Because if you succeed, your success does not threaten mine. I should be so willing to celebrate your success and help you achieve it that I don't necessarily need to nickel and dime you to get there. Now, if we can all get there together, more power to us, right? But that's really something that I would do a gut check on, and intuition as a woman.
Yeah, I agree. It sounds too good to be true. It usually is. Do your homework. Who have been the great mentors for you?
I've had so many people come in and out of my life. Honestly, my mom is a phenomenal, strong woman that, having gone what she went through, makes us stronger. But I think beyond that, I don't have a lot of, except for Allie Love on Peloton. I'm kind of obsessed.
Allie Love?
Yeah.
Cree in the studio is like, yes, girl.
I'm not too embarrassed to say that I have a little bit of a crush going. But other than that, I don't have a lot of public personas that I would say I aspire to be, more than I listen. I love the conversation. So I have a ton of strategy sessions in my office, one-on-one, with people who are trying to purchase that first home. Mm-hmm. And trying to overcome the hurdles, right? The hurdles are massive these days. They're big and wide and tall, and they seem unattainable. Yet there's always a path. It might not be today. It might be 2 years from now, but there's always a path. It's always a yes. It just might not be a today. And so I think the greatest stories and the greatest people in my life have been those people who have gotten vulnerable with me, and they've allowed me in. It picks me up to do it again. When I finally see that smile on their face, or that aha, or that charge forward, I'm like, bring it. Let's go find somebody else to do that with.
Yeah. I love that so much. I love that so much. When I bought my first home at 20, I think I was 23 years old, and I had never talked to a lender before. It was all very scary. And I felt like it was the Wizard of Oz. Like, there's this person behind the curtain that wants all my information, and it's very scary. And you're bringing a humanity to the lending world, and a conversation that we care, and that owning your own property is so important for so many reasons. And I'm just really grateful for this conversation and for the work that you're doing.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
As we bring the show to a close, thinking about that next person who might land in your office, or who is listening to this and about to go and talk to a lender for the first time, what's on your heart to share with them today?
When you get to a place in your life, when you're looking backwards, I would tell you that with real estate, when done well, you will have an abundance of options. Real estate, people want to make it about the money. They want to cash flow, especially investors and the investor clubs and the groups and the networks and all the things. It's, can you pay me the $10,000? Can you sign up for the thing? And can I make you a millionaire? Right? It's very monetary based. But real estate ultimately isn't about the money. It's about the options. So if I have a piece of property or several properties and I run into hardship, or I lose a spouse, or I get into a situation where I want to give back, or maybe my kids need help, then I have not only a place to live, I have a place that I could rent out. I have a place that I can provide stability and security to others. I have options. When I own land, I have options. When I'm renting, I don't have any options. And right now it's so easy because home prices are up and interest rates are up that you could say it doesn't cash flow. So I'm a no. I would tell you, don't give up that easily. Look for the opportunities, get creative, become flexible, and put yourself in a position of options, because without them, it gets really scary, more scary than the fear you're overcoming today.
Perfect way to sum up the show. Perfect way to sum up your career and who you are right now for your clients, for your family. Such a great example for other women that you move past the fear. The fear will be there. Take one more step, get clear on what you want, move toward the vision. And then there are women like you who will sit down and have a conversation to help you get what you want. And I think that that's something that is needed now more than ever today. So thank you for sharing your heart, and thank you for sharing your wisdom on the show today.
Oh, it was a pleasure.
Will you come back?
I would love to.
I have so many more questions. So many more, but we'll leave it there for today. I'm Lisa Chastain, your host of Real Money. Thank you for joining this conversation with Nicole Rueth. Nicole, where can they find you?
Oh, if you just search my name, but you spell it Rueth. So Nicole Rueth, we're based out of Denver, but we have access to all 50 states. So we would love to serve you.
Thank you so much, Nicole.
Yeah.
We'll catch you next time on Real Money.